Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rich Sports Talk. Welcome in Chelsea Laden from Destination Fear Chelsea. This has been a busy month for you leading up to Halloween, of course. You've been talking about the season 3 episodes that you guys have already premiered. But one thing, too, is this was your first con this month. You had your first con. How did that go? Because I know I saw on social media you were very excited to meet the fans. And what was that experience like meeting some of these Destination Fear fans for the first time?
That is a great question. First of all, thank you so much for having me. But about the first conference, the Destination Fear crew went to DeadCon in Indiana. Like you said, this was my first convention where I actually got to meet the fans from Destination Fear, and it was more than I ever thought, to be honest. I really, really genuinely enjoyed meeting everybody. It's weird because when you are part of a show and when you're part of a community that is all based on social media interactions on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, it's so interesting meeting people in the real world that you communicate with on a regular basis. But I think it surfaced something really important to me, and that was the fact that we have such a cool community surrounding Destination Fear, and the people who watch our show and support our show are incredible, and just awesome. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely hoping to do more conventions in the future. Nothing set in stone yet, but something I'm definitely looking forward to.
And a little bit of background between the two of us, because people might be wondering, how do we know each other? And I'm glad you brought up social media, because this was one of my favorite things of the past season was we actually met together because she used to play hockey at Quinnipiac University, and I was working at Quinnipiac University at the time. And on the last time we did this about a year ago, I was always asking her, I'm like, when are you going to show off the hockey skills on the show? And this last season, you were able to do that, and it was great. And it was a great segment. But one of my favorite parts about it wasn't just seeing you back on the ice, but I looked on social media after it, and a lot of people, especially your fans, were going, wait a minute, we didn't know Chelsea did this. Like, Chelsea, that's so freaking cool that you played hockey. So what was that like, getting that reaction from that episode? Because there was a lot of feedback like saying, wait a minute, Chelsea could not only is an optometrist, she's not only a TV star, but she's also a hockey player. Like, what can't she do is the better question.
Oh my gosh, thank you. But honestly, I love to broadcast my life. Like, I know some people like to keep their life private, and there's obviously times and places where that's true, but I personally love to showcase each chapter of my life, just because every chapter has been so important to me. And hockey was a very important, it was a very important part of my life, and it helped really um, set up the foundation to a lot of other things in my life. So it was really fun to be able to show everybody about my hockey career and that I played hockey. And it kind of resurfaced that excitement for the sport too. I know that I've been so busy with between optometry and with the show that it just was very nostalgic, and it was very cool to be able to share that with everybody, and just how they received it. You never know in this day and age, you're gonna me playing hockey. I was like, whatever, we'll see how it goes. But everyone was so supportive, and I love to show people that you can have a bunch of random passions, and and that's totally fine. They don't all have to overlap beautifully. My life does not do that whatsoever. So it's fun to put that out there in the universe as well.
Yeah, but it was great too because you saw especially some of the younger fans really reacting to that. And I think it's great to see someone like you be a great role model for people that might have been thinking about maybe doing hockey. And now they're like, okay, well, I saw Chelsea did this and she had a lot of great success. Like, I want to do this because we're seeing a big boom in women's hockey, both professionally, both at the collegiate level. And it's a very niche sport, which I think you know, and just to help get the idea of like, look, you can be a great hockey player and like women are great hockey players. Like you got that on a national broadcast, which I think was very powerful. When you have a lot of young fans, there might have been some girls watching that were on the fence about, I want to play a sport, but I'm not really sure if it's something I want to do, or I'm not really sure if it's cool. And then they see you doing it. They're like, oh, wow, that looks really awesome. Like, cause I did see a lot of reaction like that. Does it feel cool that maybe that through this one episode, maybe you inspired some people to play hockey, or maybe not even hockey, but try sports in some capacity that might not have thought about it until you presented it?
Yeah, of course. I'm a huge sports fan, whether it's hockey or just playing sports in general. I think that it's really good for kids to play sports. I think it really teaches you a lot of life lessons, some of those just being a good teammate. Also being able to balance your time, being able working hard to achieve goals, also disappointment, losing games and being able to like grow from those experiences. Sports are an integral piece in my life, and I encourage kids to try sports, and whether it's hockey or not. Of course, I'm a little biased. I would love everybody to play hockey. I'm all about wanting to grow, especially the women's side of hockey. We're living in some fun times and exciting times where there's definitely steps in the right direction, but I'm always going to be a supporter in that regard as well.
Well, speaking of exciting times, you gave the Destination Fear fans a bit of a treat over this last month, revealing that you guys are going to have new episodes starting November 6th, which is not only exciting to see what new destinations you're going to, but you had a little bit of a surprise about where you're going this season. For the Destination Fear fans or fans just watching who haven't heard the news, what would you like to tell them?
Sure. If you've been following along, or if not, this next half of season 3 is definitely different. It is much more exciting. We actually are traveling internationally. We visited Ireland for our last 2 stops out of 8 locations, and it was absolutely terrifying. To give a little spoiler, we ended this season actually on a island. It was called Spike Island, and we actually had to boat across the body of water just to be dropped off to spend the night alone at this haunted island. For those of you who don't know anything about the show is called Destination Fear, and essentially there are 4 of us on camera. It is my brother and my 2 best friends. So my brother is Dakota, 2 best friends is Tanner and Alex. And we travel and explore some of the world's most haunted locations and most abandoned locations. And this is the first time that we were able to travel internationally. And the caveat is that when we go to these locations, we spend the entire night there and we sleep alone. We don't really sleep. We try to sleep, but we are isolated all night to end the night. So that is Destination Fear.
Well, well, you did mention that, and it is great too, because like one of the things, like if you've watched the progression of the show from season 1 now into season 3, they've been trying new elements. They've always keep bringing new elements to the show, new challenges within the show. I mean, one of my favorites is Chelsea and the crew kind of got revenge on Dakota, her brother, by basically locking him in a dungeon for the night. And you might think that's mean spirited, but when you see the stuff he puts the rest of them through, you're like, okay, he kind of probably deserves a little bit of that. But
Oh,
I guess one question going into the second half of the season is, will we be seeing more intriguing aspects that the 4 of you are bringing to the show, like new challenges, maybe some new equipment that you'll be bringing on site? And have you gotten some great evidence that fans will be excited to see? Because so far through season 3, you've gotten some of the best evidence throughout the show's run. It's really been incredible.
thank you. Yeah. So this next half, we're always trying to just push ourselves. We believe like the more scared we are, like the better the show, essentially, like the more we experience. So that we're definitely always challenging ourselves to try to put ourselves in the scariest positions, and it sucks at times for sure. But I do think it is so much more entertaining when we're doing things that are so much outside of our comfort zones. Before going to these abandoned buildings, sometimes we do, like, we call them pit stops, and they're activities before the show. And one of them was hockey, as you mentioned. But this next half, we actually have a pretty intense one. We went caverning, and I didn't really know much about caverning, like, at all. Essentially, had to climb down a small hole in the ground about over 100 yards, and then into a cave that had it was so claustrophobic. And then once you got into the cave, you had to climb down another 100 feet, like on like an underground mountain. And it was a different level of fear. Like, I know when we talk about fear, it's like spirits, paranormal, and all this, but this was like next level, just uncomfortable. So that adds an element too. But just going to Ireland as well, we had times where, like, we don't have a flashlight, or one of our cast members was blindfolded. It's intense, and it continues to get more and more intense. But I do think that these challenges make for better entertainment for sure.
That pit stop sounds brutal. I almost want to be abandoned on the island, and rather than going like, "Hey, you're gonna go down on the ground like 300 feet in like a confined space," I'd almost rather be like, at least maybe I could swim off the island or get a boat to come and pick me up. But that just sounds intense. Like, that just sounds crazy.
Add
Was
to
that
that,
your idea?
no, absolutely not. That was definitely not my idea. My idea, I'll tell you right now, was paddleboarding in Lake Tahoe, paddleboarding yoga. So mine was a little different. That's another thing. All of us cast members are so different that the road trip just takes so many twists and turns. But part of this caverning experience was we were in a small space, just big enough where your shoulders could fit through, and we had to crawl, and the water was up to our neck. Like,
How did Tanner do? Because Tanner's like significantly taller than everyone. I'm just imagining his neck was sideways, just trying to fit in there.
so I don't know if this made the cut or not, because I haven't seen, but I will tell you that when I was behind him crawling, and his backpack got stuck on a rock, and we couldn't go backwards or forwards, and he actually got stuck on a rock for a hot minute, and it was so claustrophobic, like, not good. And he's much taller than me, so I can't imagine how he was feeling, but definitely confined.
Yeah, it feels like after that whole experience of getting stuck underground, it feels like, oh, maybe the night won't be that bad comparatively.
Right,
But
right, exactly. I'm
I
far with
mean, that's really exciting, and I know this season's going to be great. The new episodes. I mean, a lot of people have been waiting, especially this time of year with Halloween. Everyone loves to be scared, and they love this content. I mean, you've given us some great tidbits about the upcoming season. Is there anything else about the new episodes that you'd like to share? Maybe something that's happened, or maybe a location or an experience that you had that is a good tease to get people to be like, okay, I have to tune in and watch these episodes when they premiere.
Sure. I know Ireland is like the topic we all want to talk about because it's so new to us, but we actually went to another location called Indiana State Sanatorium. And this was totally a location that took me off guard. It's a very untapped location. Hardly any people have explored it. And so we had no idea what to expect. And it actually was one of the scariest locations we've been to, especially in America. So I would just say that one totally took us by surprise. Sometimes when you hear of a location and you've never heard of it before, there's some comfort in that because you're like, oh, we can do this. Like, it's clearly not, one of the most haunted places in the country. But the reason we hadn't heard of it before was because no one had explored it before. So we were one of the first people to actually record and explore there. So I would say that is one of my favorites because it was so terrifying.
And finally, because I know you got a million things to do. I mean, Chelsea's probably got one of the busiest schedules you will ever see. I don't know how she does one of these things, but she's doing like 5 things at once. But question I really wanted to ask you was, you guys have gone to so many places, both now within the US and now in Ireland. Is there one place that you haven't been to yet that you do not want to go to, that you are terrified to go to, that you haven't yet?
I would say like bucket list where like it's funny because when we're talking about places that I would not want to go, it's usually a place that like internally like I would want to try to go to and see if I could. So it's like a weird thing, but I would say Alcatraz would be crazy. Um, it's definitely a bucket list location, and that would be in America. But I know that I could speak for the guys' behalf too, that we think that if we went to the UK, because we went to Ireland, so we went to like the Republic of Ireland. So we haven't gone to like the UK yet. So I would say the UK would be next level because they have so much history too. And it's just so foreign to us that I think it just add another level of discomfort. I don't have a specific spot, but I would say
Once
there's some
again,
pretty.
Destination Fear. It's coming back November 6th. We cannot wait for the new episodes. Chelsea, as always, thank you so much for joining us here today. We always appreciate it, and we can't wait to get more reactions from you in the future and about future Destination Fear episodes.
Thank you so much for having me.